PEST analysis and SWOT analysis. This is what we are going to cover in this particular session. And you have to keep in mind that PEST and SWOT analyses, this is a part of section 1 now, business and environment. Initially, this came under strategic management section 6, but ever since the syllabus was modified, now you'll be covering this as a part of, or as an extension of, business and its environment section 1. Originally, a few years back, in fact, PEST and SWOT, this used to be a part of marketing section 3 because it does overlap with market research. So first of all, PEST analysis. PEST stands for political, economic, social and technological environment. And whenever there's a question that pertains to the external economic constraints, the external environment, the macro environment, PEST analysis proves to be quite relevant to such questions, very commonly found in case studies, paper 3 and paper 4. Okay, so PEST, first of all, the political and legal environment. It is imperative, it is essential for a business that it studies the political setup of the country and the legal environment before it enters the market. It is absolutely essential and very, very strongly recommended also. Because there are so many government policies that will have a direct influence on the performance of a business in a given market. The fiscal policy and the environment related laws and the consumer protection laws, labor legislation, all of these will have an effect, could be a positive one, could be an adverse effect on the performance of a business. So it is strongly advisable that a business, the management, they study the macro environment and they try to gather information on the legal setup of the country, the political certainty or the political instability in the country before they start operating there. For instance, the environment related laws. If the government has a tough stance regarding environment, then this has to be taken into consideration seriously by a business that wishes to operate there, because that simply means that they have to adopt concrete measures not to pollute the environment. Otherwise, the government will penalize them. Similarly, labor laws. If the minimum wage level is high, for instance, that is a hint for the business that wishes to operate there, that it will be better for them if they are more capital intensive than labor intensive, because of the simple reason their minimum wage level is high, and if they maintain a huge workforce, their cost of production will rise. Same is the case with consumer protection, the government's policy regarding quality standards and all. So all of this has to be taken into consideration. You have to study the political and legal environment before you formulate a strategy for that particular country. Political instability is also a discouraging factor for businesses. So you need to have data on that also. And just to quote an example, for instance, in Singapore, the government was considering that they should place a ban on the use of billboards, for instance, because according to them, these billboards, they distract drivers and they cause accidents. So that basically means if the law is enforced, anyone who plans to operate there or develop a marketing strategy, in Singapore, they have to ensure that the marketing strategy does not revolve around the use of billboards. Instead, they should use other techniques for this purpose. Similarly, another real-life example, the Norwegian government was considering a ban on the use of sales promotion schemes, below the line promotion, because according to them, these sales promotion schemes, many of these, they in a way, they're used for deceiving the customers, and as a consumer protection law, they are revisiting their policy regarding the use of sales promotion schemes, right? So that's number one. Secondly, we have the economic environment. In economic environment, issues such as taxes and interest rates and purchasing power of people, all of these must be considered seriously. Obviously, economic environment or the economic conditions, this is something that has a wide scope. So it is important for a business to learn about the economic conditions in a particular country, particularly the level of income, for instance, all your important business decisions regarding quality or the price that you plan to set for your products, that will largely depend on the purchasing power of customers in that country. If the purchasing power is low, then obviously offering a luxury item for sale might not produce the desired results. Then they should focus more on the mass market and use penetration pricing and sell FMCGs, fast moving consumer goods that are lower in price, right? Similarly, in economic conditions, the role of banks is very important. We can go on and on. Businesses and banks, they go hand in hand. Most of the businesses, they rely on bank loans as a part of their strategy to improve their cash flow position because they don't want their funds to be tied up. So that is why it is important for a business to learn about the banking policies in that country, the interest rates, because if the interest rates are high, that means your cost of borrowing will increase. And other terms and conditions, that they have to fulfill when they apply for a bank loan, for instance. The bank's policy regarding collateral, for instance, whether the banks, they have a business friendly policy or they have a tough policy. All such points must be given due consideration or due attention before you finalize your strategy regarding a particular market, the role of banks, so on and so forth. Taxes also, the fiscal policy, the monetary policy, all of these must be studied carefully. In fact, fiscal, monetary, etc., if you want, you can discuss these as a part of the legal environment, political and legal environment, and if you want, you can discuss this as a part of the economic environment of the business also. But the fact remains that these aspects, these cannot be overlooked because they form an integral part. They should form an integral part of your marketing strategy. And that is why if a business wishes to be market oriented or achieve the goal of market orientation or customer orientation, and if business plans to improve its chances of success in a particular market, these factors, they must be considered carefully, and they should be given due attention, like we just discussed. So after political, legal environment and the economic environment, there's the social environment when you're discussing PEST analysis. A piece of advice when you're discussing the social environment, it is strongly recommended that you rely on your knowledge of CSR. Remember, corporate social responsibility, we've been discussing this, a very important part of your syllabus. Corporate social responsibility, ethics, and triple bottom line. So basically in the social environment, you need to learn about the social setup of the country, how the society behaves, what are their social values and morals and religious views and all that. It is very, very important for a business to learn about the society and the traditions that they follow, the culture, because this often proves to be a sensitive issue. You can't violate the social or the cultural boundaries of a country. So it is advisable, and most of the companies already, there's so many examples that they do adopt this strategy, that they mold their marketing strategy keeping in view the social setup of the country. And there are countless examples, they'll try to study whether it's a conservative society or a liberated society, and so many other factors to be taken into consideration. We have so many examples. In Muslim countries, it is important for all these businesses to make sure that the food that they offer for sale, it is halal, obviously. That is extremely important. Not only that, we have interest-free banking in most parts of the world, especially in the Muslim countries. And we can go on and on. I mean, the way, the company that produces these Barbie dolls, for instance, the way they modified their products for the Middle Eastern market because they wanted to be market oriented. So you have to respect the social setup, the moral values, the religious views of the people if you want to have a market oriented approach, right? So studying the society, the social setup, that should also be an important part of your PEST analysis, and then you should mold your plan of action accordingly. The last one is technology, political, economic, social, and technological environment. Technology, as we know, has a major impact on almost all the departments in a business organization. Technology affects your production department, the quality, the quantity. Technology obviously has an impact on everything, the finance department, the HR department. If technology is available in a certain country, then the HR department, the personnel department, they will hire people who know how to use their technology. And if that technology is non-existent, then obviously the HR department will also have to revisit its policy. So all the major decisions regarding production, marketing, storage, transportation, analysis of data, they depend largely on the availability of technology in a certain country. If it is not available, you might have to import it from another country, or you might have to, work on an alternate option. So studying the technological status of the society, R&D is an integral part of this. That is also essential here. So the study of political, economic, social, and technological environment. Remember, legal and political, my suggestion is discuss it as one. That is what PEST analysis is all about. After PEST, there is SWOT analysis, SWOT, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. SWOT refers to strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So, we just learned that PEST deals with the macro environment of a business. Keep in mind that SWOT deals with macro and micro both. S and W, strengths and weaknesses, are the internal strengths and weaknesses. And ONT, opportunities and threats, these are the external opportunities and threats. So S and W, they represent the micro environment. ONT, they refer to the macro environment of a business. So you should know how to draw a line between these. So first of all, strengths and weaknesses. So basically, the idea is that the management, they must carry out a self-analysis first in a way. They have to identify their internal strengths and weaknesses first. Before they develop a strategy and before they start interacting with the external stakeholders, they have to identify the internal strengths and weaknesses first and adopt measures accordingly. For instance, their strength possibly is their skilled workforce, for instance. So if they know, as a result of this SWOT analysis, that our skilled workforce is our backbone, they play a vital role in the success of our business, then they have to make sure that these skilled workers, they are retained, they're motivated, they're rewarded properly, and they have to, leave no stone unturned to ensure that these workers, they don't look for alternate options and they don't join some other company, because they've known as a result of this SWOT analysis that their success largely depends on the skill and the performance of their workers. Similarly, it can be reversed also. If the workers are unskilled, if the workers are incompetent, if the workers cannot be relied upon, then you need to take appropriate measures. Strengths have to be retained and weaknesses, they have to be eliminated. If the workers and their performance is not up to the mark, then you have to take or adopt concrete measures accordingly. They have to be trained or replaced or warned, right? So basically, the first part of SWOT analysis, S and W, it is all about the macro environment or the internal environment of a business, right? Retaining your strengths, holding on to your strengths, and getting rid of your weaknesses or overcoming your weaknesses. The second part is regarding opportunities and threats. And this deals with, like I mentioned in the beginning, the macro environment of the business, the external factors. So it is important for a business to identify the opportunities and try to avail these opportunities before their competitors do. Opportunities, they're always there for everyone. An opportunity could be in the shape of high demand for your product. Opportunity could be in the shape of the size of the market, the composition of the market, right? Like if you're trying to sell books, for instance, and the literacy rate is high, that is a great opportunity for you, right? If you're manufacturing umbrellas, and there is significant downpour in that country, that is an opportunity for you, right? But I would like you to discuss that perhaps the greatest opportunity that can be availed by a business is the opportunity to become a pioneer in a certain field. That has to be the greatest opportunity that must not be missed out on. To become a pioneer in a certain field. And who's a pioneer? Someone who takes the initiative, who's the first one to do something. So for instance, it's a residential area, and in that area we don't have a barbecue shop, for instance, on a small scale. So anyone who establishes the first barbecue shop there, his chances of success will increase manifold, because he has availed the opportunity before anybody else did. He became a pioneer in that field, and there are countless examples, real life examples, of very well-established businesses. And one of the reasons that they were hugely successful was that they were pioneers in their respective fields. Coke was a pioneer in this field back in 1886 when this was a medicine initially, and the way it was carbonated, and they started selling it, as a soft drink, and we all know how successful they've been. They were a pioneer in this field. They're still the world leaders, 130, 140 years have passed. They were a pioneer and they took the lead, and it became difficult for others to catch up. And, just like Coke, we have Kodak Eastman, and Xerox, photocopiers, printers. And there are countless examples. All these businesses, they were pioneers in their respective fields, and this made a huge contribution towards their phenomenal success in their respective fields, right? So in SWOT analysis, after strengths and weaknesses, you will discuss opportunities. And similarly, it is important not to overlook the threats also, right? The risk factor, right? You have to look for opportunities, and you should try and avail those. But similarly, it is essential that you identify the threats, the risk factor, and try to avoid that, try to overcome that. All these examples that I just quoted, these can be reversed easily. For example, if high demand is an opportunity, low demand could be a threat. If favorable government policies, a softer government policy is an opportunity, a tough government policy is a threat, right? So the way it is recommended, it is advisable for a business not to let go of these opportunities. It is also advisable that they should keep their ears and eyes open, they should be vigilant, and they should identify the threat factor in a particular market and act accordingly. Develop a strategy accordingly, be prepared to face that, or maybe avoid that market if that seems to be the right move. But it's important not to overlook the risk factor, right? I was just quoting these examples regarding weather conditions in case of umbrellas, for instance. So in case of certain production processes, weather conditions can act as an opportunity or a threat, right? In case of certain products, humid conditions could be a threat. In case of other products, that could be an opportunity. Same is the case with temperature, rainfall, so on and so forth, right? So basically, in SWOT analysis, you have to look into all these internal and external factors, strengths and weaknesses, the internal factors, opportunities and threats, the external factors, before you actually develop a strategy or a plan for a certain market and decide to make an investment there, right? So this is how you're supposed to discuss PEST analysis and SWOT analysis, and both of these analyses, they form an integral part of strategic management, right? All right, Allah Hafiz.